What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Fish the Moment. Today I'm out here on a cold day in January in Arkansas to test out a brand new $1,000 forward-facing sonar unit from Lowrance. We're gonna find some fish here first with 2D sonar down scan and side scan, then drop the new forward-facing sonar and just see how it goes. This is my first full day actually fishing with it. I've taken it to the lake just to mess around with settings a little bit, but I haven't actually tried to catch fish with it. So we're gonna experiment with it today and see if it's any good. Before we get into that though, I want to give a huge shout out to the sponsor of all the Fish the Moment long-form content. That's Bridgeford Foods. Bridgeford makes a great beef jerky that I always have in the boat when I'm graphing around trying to find fish, and they're a great brand that supports bass fishing. They sponsor a lot of professional anglers and this YouTube channel, so if you guys want to support a great brand that supports bass fishing, definitely check out Bridgeford beef jerky at your local dollar stores, gas stations, or Walmart checkout aisles. Good deal. So let's get into here, guys. Got my down scan, side scan, 2D sonar pulled up. I'm actually already seeing fish on the screen here, which is kind of interesting. Don't look like really big ones, but I want to basically get out here and just find some fish that are roaming around on bait, because that's the main thing you really want to use a forward-facing sonar unit for anyways, is to chase around fish and maybe use like a jig head minnow, things like that. So we're gonna get out here. There's some channel swings over here, as you can see, that swing up right against this bank and then this bank, and then there's a main channel here as well. So we're just gonna graph these 3 channel bends and kind of out here in the middle, and these are kind of the key areas that I look for fish when I'm trying to catch them on the jig head minnow or with forward-facing sonar. Main lake channel swings, deep channels in the center of the lake, and then channel splits where you have one creek channel meeting another channel. We have all that right here on this lake, which is really nice. We're on a hot water lake today to hopefully make fishing a little bit easier. We've had some really cold weather here in Arkansas recently, and we actually already have some fish on the screen right here. We can actually see a few. They're kind of just scattered down there. There's a bunch of them actually right there, a big school of fish. They're not very big though. As we can see on our 2D, you can see all these fish right here, right there. There's an absolute pile of them. These might actually be crappie, and there's fish down here. And the reason I think they're not that big is just because you don't see any of the arches on 2D. And I do have my settings set up in a way that if I am seeing fish on down scan but not 2D sonar, that means they're gonna be smaller fish. And so I always have that setting set up just so that I'm not wasting time fishing for like crappie or small bass or anything like that. And I'm actually going to, I have the mapping up here, but I'm actually gonna switch over to this view, which is my 2D down and side. I can kind of see where all of the creek channels and everything are happening. So we're gonna stick with this view. And what I'm looking for specifically is some fish that are around the bait on my 2D sonar that show really good arches rather than just a bunch of these small little dots. So there's a lot of dots on the screen. Some just popped up 20 foot of water right underneath the boat. There's a bunch more fish. There's a bunch of dots around, but they're all really, really small. So I need those arches to be more defined to make me actually want to stop and fish, because I'm looking for 2.5 to 5 pounders today. I don't want to be fishing for a bunch of, 10 inches, 12 inches. It just doesn't really make that big of a difference for me if I was fishing like at a tournament or anything like that. So I take a little bit of extra time and graph around to find those nice arches before I drop the forward-facing sonar. A lot of guys think you just need to get out here, use the live sonar, and just randomly start going, but you can still use traditional 2D down side to determine the size of the fish first and the kind of the zone that has the best quality fish in it. Now we're going to kind of zigzag through here, so I'm getting kind of close to one of these bluff walls over here. I'll kind of show you with this. Getting closer to one of these bluff walls, and then I'm going to zigzag across through the middle of this channel over here and just kind of see if there's any fish out in the middle of the lake out here, cross over to this point, then cross back over, and just wait until I see some larger fish. There's a lot of bait fish in the area, you can see right on the bottom in 30 feet. So there's plenty of bait, there's plenty of forage for these fish to feed on. So it's not going to be an issue of having bait fish, but when there's so much bait, you can see it's all over the screen from about 35 feet of water to the bottom, right in that zone, maybe like 30 feet to the bottom. And there's a ton of random fish out here, but they're just not quality fish. So we want to really dial that in first, find those better quality fish. And this is the part of this that actually takes the longest. I think that when I'm trying to catch fish on forward-facing sonar, I spend quite a bit more time graphing with traditional sonar than a lot of people would expect. And that's just because normally when I do drop the trolling motor, I start catching them right away. So it makes forward-facing sonar fishing look really, really easy, because it's just like, okay, once you find them, boom, you catch them. And it kind of is pretty easy once you get on a group of fish, but finding them first with your traditional electronics is definitely the key to being a better forward-facing sonar angler Otherwise, you just kind of have to wait until you luck into them. And I don't ever like to luck into anything. I like to try to stack the cards in my favor a little bit, as much as I can. So we're gonna keep graphing through here until we find some fish, and that's why I want to show you these uncut style videos as often as possible, so I can give you an idea of my thought process, but also show you the actual amount of effort and time that goes into finding fish at times. Because even though we're on a small lake that's absolutely loaded, this is a really good lake. Anyone who knows where I'm at will know this is a good lake, but that doesn't mean that there are fish in every inch of the lake. And then you can kind of take what I'm doing today and expand it out to, let's say, a bigger lake that might have, you know, 10, 20, 30 times the acreage of this lake, and now you're gonna get into a situation where you're gonna have to graph for a lot longer to find these key areas, or find areas that are holding good fish. Now, we have some sunny skies today. These bluebird skies usually mean that the fish are going to be a little bit higher in the water column, but because we've had so much cold weather recently, I think these fish might actually be pushing a little bit deeper than I would normally expect, and we're already seeing a few fish kind of died up on the bottom at about 32, 33 feet on that downscan view. There's some bait down there as well, and a lot of the bait fish I'm seeing are actually pretty tight to the bottom, which is a very interesting deal right now. Not what I was expecting. I was expecting to see a lot of floaters and fish high up in the water, but you can see a lot of that bait are in the center of these little depressions or guts. And I think today, honestly, would be a great day also to go fish brush piles and do some other stuff. So we may end up doing that as well. If we can't find any of these fish that are really, really stacked up out here, there's always the option of just going and fishing brush piles, and that's still interesting to show with this new sonar. So we'll do a bunch of stuff. There's some standing timber over here. There's all kinds of things we can fish, but I want to check out this first, and at least try to fish out here for some of these suspended fish first, because again, that's kind of what you're getting into the live sonar game for. That you can fish brush piles and you can fish drop-offs and stuff without forward-facing sonar, just dropping waypoints. But the ability to have $1,000 forward-facing sonar all in with the unit plus the transducer and everything is a pretty intriguing proposition, especially if you're just kind of getting into the game and you don't have the funds or just don't want to commit to spending $4,000 to $5,000 on the unit. This is definitely an interesting entry point to it. So we're getting through here. One thing I've noticed is we've lost the bait. So there's no bait in this area, which is not ideal. We want to be around bait, but I just found some bait now to the left side of the side scan, all the way out there 100 feet to the left. It's actually about 70 feet to the left, so there is some bait out there. I'm gonna kind of go around. I'll show you where we are in our mapping here. We're kind of cutting across now the middle of this deal. Right where we started, there was a lot more bait around one of those creek channel bends, and I was seeing a lot more activity in terms of fish, just not big fish. So there's a potential that these fish are setting up more towards these creek channel bends. And there's another one coming up here that is right in front of the boat, just to the left. And maybe that is kind of what we need to be fishing around today, are these channel swings. And we'll see if there's fish in and around this. There's some fish we can see a little bit on that side scan view, but nothing that really blows me away. There's a few fish here and there. I'm seeing some fish down there on the bottom. There might be a little bit of harder bottom down there. You can see them on that side scan view. Actually, there's a few of them right here, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to mark this right here with fish and maybe just kind of regraph around that really quick, because it looks like there's some fish that are just setting up around here. They don't look very big though when I graph over them with 2D and down, so that's not a great sign, but there are some fish down here on the bottom. And one thing I figured out is that if you see fish down here really tight to the bottom, there's a pretty good chance that there's more down there. And we can see that there's some small dots popping up on 2D and down. There's some arches on 2D, but nothing really crazy. But we're seeing a few fish on side, and we're not around enough bait in this area though. This area does not have the bait. It's interesting because like last year I was in this area and I caught a bunch of fish right in here. So this is kind of where I wanted to start. And that just goes to show how these fish can move and shift so much year to year, day to day, even on this forward facing sonar deal. Because these fish are pelagic, which means they're roaming around so much, you're not always going to be able to find them in the exact same spots every single year, or again, day to day, week to week. So what I'm gonna do actually is I'm gonna run really quick back over to this area and check this channel swing, and then we may need to actually go back over here and check this zone, because we started right here and we saw a lot of bait and we didn't really go the other direction, so we may have kind of just gone the wrong way. But let me just run around here just really fast. Okay, so we're back on this channel swing over here, a little bit deeper, 35 feet. We're seeing a lot more bait in 35 feet of water than we were out there in like 20 foot of water. And again, we still have not found a good group of fish or anything that we consider really lights out. And I mean, we only been graphing for like 10 minutes, so it's not, that's not a big deal, guys. I sometimes will spend 2-3 hours graphing around to find a key little stretch. And so I want to also make that very clear. Looks like you may have some bigger gizzard shad down there as well. You can see those dots are a little bit more spread apart. Now there's a first good-ish arch. It's not great, but at least it's maybe like a 2-pounder that just popped up on the screen there, 25 feet down. So we have at least a fish that potentially could be interesting. I like the fact that we're seeing some of those bigger gizzard shad. Those dots, again, are more spread apart in those shad balls. And usually when you get around bigger gizzards, you're gonna find bigger fish. That's not always a guarantee, it's just sometimes what goes on. But there are quite a few balls of shad once you get down to that 35-foot zone. But as soon as we get out of 35 feet, you're not seeing any more shad. So I think I need to be staying in that 35 foot of water. That's where a lot of that bait is for whatever reason today, really deep down there. And it almost makes me think we need to head back the other direction where there's more deep water, because it's just gonna get shallower here. Oh, there we go. Okay, never mind. We just found a group of bass right there. So that is a group of bass right there on the screen on down scan. We actually have another group of bass on the left over here. So if we go here, this is a group of bass. You can see those arches clear as day. There's a wad of them. This is what bass look like on your down scan 2D when they're basically grouped up. So you can see those arches very clear. They have a lot of yellow in them based on my settings, and that is 100% a group of bass, which is really nice. We also saw some bass potentially on the side scan view over here, right over here. So right there, that is a group of potential bass. Those are definitely bass. So they're kind of spread apart, balled up in a group of 5 or 6, but have some space between them. There's bass right there too. And what we want to do is we want to basically graph this area to find a decent population of fish and find enough of these little wads so that we're not going to just have to sit here and, ooh, there's more there. We're not just gonna sit here and fish for a couple fish. There's a few fish there, nothing crazy, but definitely a few here and there. We'll keep rolling through here and see if we can find a few more. There's a boat right here, and I don't really want to get right on top of him. So that was right where that little wad, right where that wad was that I found. There was a couple wads. So we'll move here a little bit more, and I don't want to get right on top of him. So let's see if we can find another group. But that's what bass are looking like. I'm hoping I can find some more a little bit further over here. But as you can see, that depth of water at 35 feet is kind of where we saw a lot of that stuff. And we're now, again, shallowing out a little bit. So I want to see if we can find another little dip that drops into 35. That's what we're looking for. We need to find that 35 foot of water. That's where the bait is. And if we can't find another group, I may ask this guy if I can fish near him. I don't want to get right on top of him though, if I don't have to. So if we can find another little spot around here, that would be preferred. Let's get over here and see. We'll graph this way, and then we'll pull up through this. There looks like there might be some drain. Ooh, there's a bass right there on the bottom, chasing those shad right there. Look at that. That is absolutely perfect. If we look at that, you can actually see a fish that's in those shad. So the bass is on the left side of that bait ball, and there's bait right here in 30 foot, right there on the bottom. Looks like there may be a few more bass as well right there. They're completely stacked right there on the bottom. So right here, that's a bass, and there's another bass right here. So oh, there's more bass right here. Look at all this. There's a bunch of them right here, right there on the bottom, stacked up. These are all bass right here, chasing on the bottom right there. You can see those arches. They are pretty tight to the bottom, so the arches look a little bit distorted, but these are definitely fish right in here. There's more of them right there chasing. You can see them right there on that little lip of that ledge. There's 3 or 4 dots, right? 1, 2, 3. This is what we're looking for. So we found these fish. Let me spin around here. Let me just ask this guy if I can fish kind of around him. I don't want to get too close on top of him. Let me just ask him real quick, and then we're going to try to fish around here because there's definitely some fish here. Okay, guys, so we got the Eagle Eye 9 pulled up here. This is that $1,000 forward-facing sonar. We actually have a group of fish literally right in front of us. The guy who's fishing over here was gracious enough to let me make a few casts over here as well, and I just saw him catch a fish, so appreciate him doing that. We can already see some fish on the screen over here. They're just all over the place. First cast right there, 60 feet out, 20 feet down, first cast. That is awesome. Apparently it works, guys. That's pretty good right there. Nice fish. We graphed them up, literally first cast. I need to do this 20 cast series like we talked about, where I try to catch 20 fish on 20 casts. That's a nice fish right there. First one on a little prototype bait. We're actually gonna be launching here pretty soon. It's a collaboration with Bass Tricks. It's called the Hover Tricks. And it's on a prototype jig head we have. It's a strolling head. Nice little fish. Here we go. There's more fish right down here in front of me still. So you can see these fish down here. They're all over the place. About 25 feet down, right towards the bottom. I'm dropping on them. There's another fish right here. He's right on it. And you can see there's a few of them down here. I pulled some of those fish to me. Okay, so let's calm down and make another cast. That's awesome. First cast, so let's keep going. There's some fish out here 60 feet out, 15 feet down. So a couple of things you'll notice about this eagle eye. One, the screen's kind of cut off at the bottom, and that's because there's only a third of the transducer beams as you would normally get on a standard forward-facing sonar. I'm right in front of some fish right here. 50 feet out, you can see my bait. There's some fish swimming around it. They're right on it, right on it. 40 feet out, 15 feet down. Come on, come on, come on. Eat it. Oh, he just swerved it. He just swerved it. Another one's following it, just shaking that thing. Okay, he didn't eat it. So those fish were stacked up perfect. There's more fish down here on the bottom. Sorry guys, I'm getting excited. There's a fish right out here in front of me, 40 feet, 25 feet down, 40 feet out. I'm dropping right in his head. I'm pretty impressed already by my ability to track my bait on this deal and watch it down to these fish. My bait's falling there. It's about 15 feet down, now 20 feet down. It's falling right in front of that fish. See if he comes over and gets interested in it. He's right there on the bottom. Now, my thing's gonna get cut off here, unfortunately, because of the angle of this deal. You'll notice that this sonar, it cuts off basically a quarter of that screen at the bottom. And the reason it's doing that, oh my gosh, look at all those fish over there. The reason it's doing that is because they're only using a third of the cones that normally come on a forward-facing sonar unit. So on a standard forward-facing, you have 6 cones basically, which create a full image. They're only putting 2 on this unit. And the reason they're doing that is to cut the cost, obviously. So to make it $1,000, they had to cut some of the cones. And what this means is there's a little bit of a dead spot on the bottom, depending on the depth zone you set up. There's also somewhat of a dead spot kind of at the top of the screen, which I'll show you here in a bit. I've been testing around with it and I've noticed it a few times, but I want to get on these fish. You can see these fish down here all around. They're on the bottom, they're swimming around. I marked these fish and they were right on the first waypoint I had. There's a bunch of fish sitting here on the bottom, and those are the kind of fish I want to target because those are usually ones that are a little bit less pressured. So there's fish here on the bottom. You can see them 25 feet down, 60 feet out. There's a pile of them down there right on that little drop off, and I'm bringing my bait down to those fish. It's falling right now 20 feet down. I missed my cast a little bit. I didn't really get it right in them. See if any of them are still interested in eating. There's more down there. Oh my gosh, get over there. So those are all fish right there at 60 feet. There's a straight pile of them. And basically with this eagle eye, if you're fishing further out in front of the boat, let's say 60 plus feet or 40 to 60 feet, and you're fishing deeper than about 5 feet down, that bait's pretty easy to track. There's all that bait out there, 80 feet. It's a little bit harder to track past about 65 feet. My bait's falling right now, 65 feet, 20 feet down. My bait's down there, and I'm right in the heart of all of that deal. I'm shaking my minnow, see if they come up and get my bait. I'm right around a bunch of them. You can see my bait, I hopped it a little bit more, 60 feet. Come on, come get it. Nope. They're in that bait right there though. Bunch of them down there. Look at all those fish. They're on top of that bait now. I need to get over there. Come on, trolling motor. Kick into gear. My boat's getting old. My trolling motor's not working on me fully all the time. Anyways, so it's a little bit harder to track your bait when you're not like in the perfect little strike zone. Look at all those fish though. You can see them down there, 35 feet. If you're just trying to get in the game with this forward-facing sonar, this is pretty good. I mean, I'm pretty impressed by this deal. My bait's right there at 60 feet. It's not as easy to see with like an Active Target 2. The Active Target 2 is definitely a lot clearer, in my opinion, than this, because you have, it's not that the sonar is any different. My bait's down there, right on that little drop. I'm shaking it in front of a couple of them right now. Come on, come up and eat it. They're right on it. They're right on it. Eat it. Come on. Oh, he hit it. He hit it and he didn't eat it. Come on. He hit it and he didn't eat it. Why didn't he eat it? Look at those fish. You know what? There's so much bait down there. I almost need to throw a flutter spoon on these fish. Let me throw a flutter spoon. Sorry guys, I'm so excited fishing that it's hard to talk. But basically what's happening on this deal is that you have the same exact type of sonar that you get from Active Target 2. There's a fish high up too. There's so many fish around, it's hard to know what to do. Should I throw close? Should I throw far? So I'm gonna throw this flutter spoon out here just because there's some big gizzards in this lake, and sometimes when there's a bunch of fish around, my bait's falling down there at 65 feet. Sometimes when you just rip that flutter spoon through these areas where there's a bunch of bait and everything, you'll get those fish a little more aggressive, because it's hard for them to differentiate your shad from the other shad that are down there. Oh, one just smacked the spoon and didn't get it. Dang it. Bring it by these fish right here. There's some fish that are floating in front of me too. So let me show you this. This is kind of interesting. Sorry, I'm like all over the place right now, guys. So I'm gonna fire this out. One thing that's hard with this is it's hard to see your bait splash, which is something that a lot of guys really like with like Active Target 2, is you can see your bait splash. That's because of the cone angle on this thing. It's a little bit, it cuts off the top of the screen just a little bit. There's a little bit of black space. So you don't see your bait really very well until it gets about 5 feet down, which is a limitation. And then you can't see the fish right underneath the boat. So like I'm dropping on some fish, or what look like fish, and I can't see underneath the boat right now super well to see if they're actually there still, which is definitely a limitation on this deal. It's not the end of the world per se, but it's definitely a limitation, and I think you're gonna have to expect to have some limitations if you're gonna spend a quarter of the price on a unit right on these fish. Come on, eat it. Come on. I'm right on these fish. 30 feet out, 10 feet down. He's on it, he's on it. Come on, come on. Oh, he's swerving it. These fish are probably seeing like a million minnows right now, so there's some fish on top of this bait ball over here, 60, 70 feet out. See if I can get a cast on them properly. Now guys, we're over here at Integrated Boat Works in Tulsa with my guy Darren. He's been rigging my boat for over 5 years now. He's taken more transducers and wires out of this boat than I would care to admit, and he's the only guy I trust to get installations done on my boat. And we took off the Active Target 2 that we had on the boat and switched it out for this Eagle Eye. And Darren, what was the installation process like compared to this thing?
So simple install, simple wiring. You know, it's 2 wires, you know, single beam transducer running up the shaft. Like I said, it's just 2 wires. I mean, simple, 20-minute install.
That's
max.
awesome. And you don't need this black box anymore, right? Which is usually what you have with most forward-facing sonar.
Yes. So no black box, all compact. Like I said, a nice little clean system on a budget. So anybody looking for to get, you know, forward-facing sonar on a budget, this is what you want to do.
Yeah, it's cool that it's such an easy install, and I like that you can mount this here very simply on the trolling motor head like that, and run the wires. Any installation tips you have to make sure it goes on well?
Just keep this straight. You know, that's going to change your, you know, the direction it's pointing. They do offer a transom mount, so you know if somebody wanted to put this on the transom, you know, to get that option, that's out there as well. So, like I said, simple, quick, easy, effective. So ready to see what it looks like on the water.
For sure. Well, and it's simple for Darren. I'm not as electronically inclined. So if you guys do want to get anything installed in your boat, definitely reach out to Darren here in Tulsa at Integrated Boat Works. He also has a lot of products available on his website at integratedboatworks.com. So definitely check that out and give him a ring. He's the only guy I trust to rig my boat. And if he's rigged this monstrosity of a boat for 5 years, he can literally rig anything. So thanks, Darren, for all your help. Now let's go back to the lake. Hard to see where my bait is. So tracking your bait is definitely harder with this unit than it is with a $4,000 unit. But again, that's kind of has to be expected just because you're spending so much less money on it. So you're not gonna see your bait splash. It cuts off the top of the screen a little bit. And it's a little bit harder to see it day in and day out. Like, I feel like with Active Target 2, I can always know where my bait is pretty much all the time. So if you were gonna, wanting to get into like tournament fishing and, dominate and spend the money, and you're like, hey, I'm gonna choose between these two, what should I get? Obviously, Active Target 2 is going to be better day in, day out. Oh my gosh, cast right on those fish. These fish that are kind of floating are not interested that much. Fish that are on the bottom are the ones that are actually seem to be more catchable, which is interesting. I thought I was just gonna start putting the smack down on them after I caught first fish on first cast. Okay, I'm in the middle of these fish right now. Come on. I'm right in the middle of them. One of you eat it. Unless these are just big gizzards. These might not be bass because they're not really reacting to my bait. I also don't know with this, the size of the fish and all that stuff right now, just because I'm just starting to use this. I don't know what exact settings I need to be using, but from what I'm seeing, it's definitely getting the job done in terms of being able to see your bait, see the fish. My bait's falling right now to a fish 20 feet down, 35 feet out. He's about to eat it. Come on. Got him. That was awesome. Pulled it right out into those fish. I mean, to be able to just drop it right on these fish for a $1,000 unit, that is not bad. Oh, threw the bait. He was a decent one right there. He threw it. A couple more up here. You can see him down there, 60 feet out, about 25 feet down. Let's see if I actually got the cast right. I don't think I did, but I did cast on a fish. So let's see if this fish actually eats it. I did put it on one. There's actually a fish swimming below it too. There's some fish on the bottom down there, right on the bottom. Seeing if any of them want to come up and play with my minnow. Oh, one does. Come on, eat it, eat it, eat it. Come on, come on. He's all over my bait. 40 feet out, 20 feet down. He is all over it. He's just not committing. Come on, come on. Eat it, eat it, eat it. And now I lost him. So that's the bummer about this unit, guys, is you do lose fish. I could have kept working that fish all the way to the boat if it was normal, normal Active Target 2. So you do miss those fish. You can change the range when you're fishing shallower. It's not as big of a deal, to be honest. It's a little bit easier, but when you're fishing this deep, you have to sacrifice some of that bottom range because, again, you just have less cones. If the other one has like a whole 130-degree angle on it because there's 6 transducer beams versus 2. But now you see I'm on those fish, shaking my minnow right in front of them. Any of them interested? No. 25 feet down. You can see them down there. There's a bunch of them right there, right on the waypoint we made, like directly on the waypoint. Let's see if I can get these fish to actually eat. They're on like a little stump down there. I need to get my cast right. Where's my bait? Here's my bait, 60 feet out. I got the cast okay. Any of you guys interested? My bait's 25 feet down, 50 feet out, right in front of a couple fish. See if any of them want to play ball. Oh, he's getting interested. Come on, come on, come on, come eat it. Oh, he's just staring at it, not eating it. See, these are the fish then, like if you can't get them to eat the minnow, you gotta throw something else down there. And that's what I've been trying to do with this flutter spoon and a few other baits, is trying to get these fish to react, especially the ones that are sitting tighter to the bottom. I find that you can a lot of times get them to react to like a big flutter spoon and other baits a little bit better at times. I don't know where my bait is. There it is. It's at like 70 feet. It's kind of falling past them, which is good. So my bait's at 70 feet right now, basically on the bottom. I'm gonna rip that bait up by some of these fish. See if they get excited about it. Come on. Come on. Nope. Okay, so they didn't want they don't want the spoon. So we got a couple bites on the minnow, but they don't want the spoon. That's interesting. Are there other baits that they'll bite? That's the next question though. Because if they don't just bite the spoon, there might be other things we can get them on. Let's try the old spunk shad and tush combination. That's been working for me pretty well, other than just the minnow. Just trying to throw different stuff, different things, different presentations. I think that a lot of times these fish get so conditioned to just the minnow that if you can throw some other baits, a lot of times you can get these fish to react just by giving them something different. But you kind of just have to go through a bunch of baits a lot of times to figure out what different is. So my bait's 50 feet out right now. Come on. Fish on my bait right now. You can see him, he's swimming at it. There's a bunch of them down there. Oh my goodness, look at all of them down there. There's a pile of them. Oh, look at all those fish. You gotta get in there. Look at all of them. 60 feet out, 25 feet down, just gassing on the bottom down there. Where's my bait? There's my bait. So you can see my bait. It's falling at 60, right? Where is it? Losing it. Oh, come on. There's, I can see it at 50. It's just right in there. Oh, they're all underneath the boat. This is the one thing I don't like about this unit, is that if they get underneath the boat, usually you can track them, but here you can't really track them that well. Man, there's a bunch of them right underneath the boat. 40 feet out. This bait falls really slow. I have this 1/4 ounce tush with the spunk shad, and I think it's just falling. I need something that falls a little bit faster on these fish. Oh, they're swimming away. Dang it, I missed them. See my bait, it's falling too slow, or I need to anticipate more with this deal. Because there's a bunch of them swimming around down there. Bait's falling at 65 feet. See if I can actually get one of them to come eat my bait. Ooh, one's following it right now, I think. Come on. Where are they at? It's really tricky times to... Okay, I need to get a heavier bait on, because this thing is... The bait I'm throwing is not good for 35 feet. It kind of glides with that tush, and the spunk shad glides around too much for what I'm trying to do right now. I need something... This minnow drops a little bit quicker, so you can get down to those fish easier than what I can with that tush and the spunk shad. Need to find that school that we've missed. I missed my opportunity on those fish just because I was screwing around. They're actually all behind the boat right now. I'm gonna cast out there, and while that's going, I'll try to spin the boat around and hopefully find my bait again. We'll see how that goes. There's my bait. It's going down to him actually this time. Come on. right in the middle of them. Just can't quite see them. So, I mean, I think from a standpoint of like just being able to track your bait, fish around, do everything, I think that this unit gets the job done. I mean, I'm putting it right on these fish right here. Come on. Why are they getting right under my trolling motor? That's so weird. They're like coming up to the surface right here. I can actually see them right there. Like a 3-pounder, just on the surface, swimming up to me. Nice. Okay, there's some more fish. We found a freaking pile of them though. You can see how many fish we found just by graphing with 2D and with downscan and taking a little bit of time to actually graph. We're around a lot of fish, and a lot of times it's just figuring out the right bait or figuring out the right retrieve. We're right in those fish right there, come on. Come on, fish. Nope, not interested in that. So maybe it needs to be the fish that are positioned around the shad. Those are the catchable ones. There's also some fish down the bottom over here. There's a bunch of fish that are chilling out here. There's a fish on my bait right now. Oh, come on, get it. Got him. He was high in the water column. I didn't realize it until oh, good one. Maybe I need to fish to these floaters that are really high. I didn't notice that. I was not paying attention. But yeah, he was tracking my bait the whole way. Good fish here. So maybe those floaters are the ones I need to be targeting more. Yeah. There we go. Nice fish right there on the old heart head. That's what we're calling this thing. And that Bass Tricks Hover Tricks. Really nice fish right there. Beauty on that deal. Loving that. Nice, beautiful fish right there. Solid 3-pounder. Man, this little Hover Tricks, guys, is a juicy little bait. It holds up really well, but I like the fact that it is hollow, so it floats really well. It'll float in the middle of the water column a lot better than just standard plastic. And it's a made in America bait. We collaborated with Bass Tricks to get it made, and it works really well with the hover rig, but also with this new jig head, the heart head that we made, that rocks the bait super well without the need for a loop knot, which is the idea behind it, because I don't like tying a loop knot. And it is a sweet little hook, sweet little rig. And I think what we need to be doing right now is finding some of these floaters, because these floaters, that fish goes pretty aggressive. So here's one of the things I don't like about this deal too. So we got some floaters up here, 50 feet out, 60 feet out, and you can see that that fish is kind of cut off a little bit just because of the angle of that cone. So it's really hard to target that fish that's really high in the water column like that. There's a fish that's just swimming right underneath the surface at 50 feet. And depending on the situation, sometimes it works out and you can get on them, but then other times it's kind of tricky. And I don't like the fact that that cone angle can change so much, or make it difficult to actually target these fish. I would prefer if you could see your bait splash and everything. But again, you have to just kind of sacrifice sometimes a little bit of functionality just to get that bait or that unit to the price point that people are looking for. So I get why they did it. I'm dropping to a fish right here. I'm gonna lose him on the screen again. I saw him down there. I'm just gonna shake it. Maybe just getting it around his face is enough to get him to bite. Who knows? Okay, here's 3 nice fish right here. 3 nice floaters. These are some of those fish that we kind of graphed where we saw them floating up. Baits out there, hopefully around them. Yep, right at 40 feet. Got it right in front of their face. Are they gonna come eat it? Nope, they swerved it. Bunch of fish on the bottom still though. Don't know what I need to do to get these fish on the bottom to bite consistently, because I got like that first one I dropped on was really aggressive and there was like a little wad of them. And then since then, it's been kind of tricky to get those fish on the bottom to bite. And I'm gonna do a video here in a bit too, guys, where I try to catch these fish without forward facing and try to catch these minnow fish, trying to use like old 2D sonar and just seeing if the minnow works without forward facing, because I'm pretty curious about that since we're on a lake where obviously we're catching them doing it. And there's a lot of fish in the area. There's a lot of good ones. It's just a matter of patience and time on this and firing on a bunch of different fish. Look at all those down there. I want to try that 20 cast series at some point too. I'm casting a lot of these fish because I have a lot of casts, but if I had to force myself to only make a handful of casts, I feel like I could probably narrow it down to just a few casts I need to make on like groups that I feel very, very confident about. And I think that'd be kind of an interesting series, but let me know what you think in the comments on that too. But I'm putting that bait right in front of some fish. They're swimming towards me, which is kind of a bummer. So I'm gonna lose them here. I think I would, if I was gonna do that, I want to use the Active Target 2. The Active Target 2 is definitely preferred, guys, if you are gonna be like a serious scoper, I guess. I need to get a new minnow on here because this one's a little bit torn up. I'll mend that with some Mend It later. But for now, I'm just gonna get another minnow on. That Bass Tricks Hover Tricks. This is Matt's Matte Shad. I love this color. There's another one called Johnny's Juice, which I like as well, but it's better for like Grand Lake or dirtier water lakes. And then there's also just kind of like a Pro Blue style called Albino Shad, which is a good color. And those are all going to be up on coretackle.com later this week or early next week by the time this video posts. So they won't be on the website when this video actually launches, but they'll be up soon, so you can check those out. Okay, there's some fish right here. And then we don't have this heart head's going to be launching here later than that. It's going to be later this year or later this spring, probably like February, March-ish time. Not 100% sure on the exact launch window with production and everything, but I'm excited about this head because it is definitely a different look to the minnow. It shakes it a lot harder, and I think it gives it more flash. I think in dirty water it's going to be especially good. It obviously works here too in this clear water situation, but I think in dirty water it's going to really shine. This fish right here next to the boat. So let's keep rolling here. There's another little wad of fish we found. There's a bunch of fish right here though. I mean, a bunch of them, but there are more fish on this side. So let's keep rolling over here, and I'm just gonna keep talking about this deal, this Eagle Eye unit. Again, I wouldn't say this is a replacement for Active Target 2 in the sense that like Active Target 2, if you want to see your bait all the time across all parts of the screen and be as efficient as possible with forward-facing sonar, you want to get the Active Target 2 or like a, other forward-facing sonar that is a little bit, has a little more coverage. But if you're just getting into the game, and honestly, you're just like, hey, I want to learn about forward-facing sonar. I want to get a little bit better at it before I commit to spending $5 grand. This unit will get the job done. And as you can see today, I can make it happen, which is pretty solid. The one thing I will say though is that if you go from, let's say, a really expensive forward-facing sonar to this, it's probably not going to feel the best. So like, if you hear guys who are like, hey, this thing is bad because they are used to using a $5,000 unit, then yeah, they're probably not going to like this that much. Come on, fish. Come on. Nope. I don't know if that was a fish or not. I don't know if that was a bass or not. They're probably not going to like this that much if they're used to a $5,000 unit. But if they are, if you've never used a forward-facing sonar unit before, I don't think it's going to be that much of a issue to adapt and figure out the blind spots and all that stuff. I think it's kind of jarring going from an expensive unit to this just because it is a little bit less coverage. It's a little bit harder to track your bait, so you have to be a little bit better at casting. There's a bunch of fish on this point right here. A little bit better at casting and washing your bait down and just kind of knowing and being aware of where the blind spots are. So I think that a guy who just picks this up for the first time without ever using other forward-facing sonar is probably going to be fine. You're probably going to enjoy it and be able to get functionality out of it. You can see the fish pretty clearly. The only thing I did on my settings is I just pumped up the sensitivity up past default a little bit higher just to get a little bit better picture and seeing my bait a little bit better. That's all I really did though, is just pump the sensitivity up. There's really not that many settings on it, so it's kind of nice because it's pretty much plug it in and go, which is nice. Okay, so my bait's 60 feet. I'm working it up to 2 fish right here. See if either of them get interested. Ooh, they are. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. He's about to eat it. Come on. Oh, come on, eat it. He got really excited about it. Come on, come on. Got him. There we go. He was all excited about it. I put my rod tip down and shook it. I find that that works a lot of times on these fish when they're following it. Instead of shaking it with the rod tip up, shaking it with the rod tip down a lot of times can get them to commit. And it's just something I've kind of seen a lot of guys do and talk about. A lot of the Japanese anglers do that. But nice fish right here on the old hover tricks and the heart head. There we go, the eagle eye. Look at that right there. Heart head with the hover tricks. Nice little fish right there. Beauty. Love that combo, guys. Nice fish. Beautiful. And they were right there on that deal. Followed that bait out. Watched him come and eat it. I mean, again, guys, that's pretty impressive. Pretty solid. Little bit, I don't know. I'm talking a lot. I'm trying to kind of give you my opinion on it all. But obviously, you guys are going to make your own judgments on it as well based on what you see. So if you're looking through this and you're like, hey, I really like this or I don't like this, kind of let me know down in the comments. I will just say, people who have used forward facing before and have another unit that's more expensive, they're not going to like this, and you're probably going to hear people say this is not good. And you have to keep in mind, there's 1/3 of the sonar beams on this, and it's $1,000 compared to $4,000. So yes, you're getting maybe 70% of the capabilities of an active target 2 or a more expensive sonar, but you're getting it at literally 1/10 of the price. Ooh, there's a fish on my bait right here. Come on. Not 1/10. Sorry, that was horrible math. Sorry, you're getting it for 1/4 of the price. 1/10 of, sorry, I'm fishing over here, and my mental math I just completely brain farted on that one. That's hilarious. Okay, so doing that math again, you're getting oh man, you're getting a 70% of the capability for 1/4 of the price of a standard unit, and you're getting a lot of the good functionality. You can still track your bait, you can still shake your minnows, you can do a lot of the stuff. You can see a fish here on the bottom 40 feet out. If you wanted to see it more on the seeing fish on the bottom, try to pull them off the bottom, things like that. I'm pulling this fish off the bottom. I'm about to eat my bait. Come on, come on. No, okay. Didn't eat that. But and there are fish out here, we're getting on them. I'm just curious now how I could catch these fish without forward facing. That's kind of my next question, because obviously we can catch them here with forward facing. We know that. We've caught multiple fish here. So if you could catch them forward facing, that's great. But could you catch these fish without forward facing? That's my next curious question. Is these fish are suspended out here or down this little channel out here that we graphed? I mean, I feel like because those fish were sitting right on my waypoint, I should just be able to go and fire on those things with a few different baits and get them to bite eventually. I don't see why that wouldn't be the case, but we need to experiment and actually test that out. So we're gonna test that out in the next video, because I've caught enough fish on this already. Hopefully this gave you a pretty good idea of what this unit's capable of. I will say using forward-facing sonar is pretty addicting, because like you watch these fish and you're like, oh, I got to get my bait in. You see them all just swimming right there, and I want to catch those fish, and it gets pretty addicting at times. They went straight to the bottom. That's interesting. But a lot of times too, I like to do some traditional sonar stuff. Oh, here comes a fish. Come on, eat it, eat it, eat it, eat it. Oh, come on. One of you has to eat it. Are you kidding me? They're all following it. There's like 10 of them on it. What are they doing? Why are they not eating it? That's so weird. Come on. Come on. Come on, one of you just eat it. Unless they're just really small. They got really excited about it, and then they're like, nope, see ya. They swerved it. Anyways, okay. Well, that was interesting, guys. I really liked messing around with this. I mean, we caught some fish, we did what we needed to do, and I think there's a lot of potential with this unit. But I'm gonna end that here, guys, and I wanna get out and now try to start catching some of these fish without forward-facing sonar. I'm gonna regraph some of this stuff and maybe see if I can find a few more spots where they're sitting tight to the bottom, and then try to catch them with some other standard techniques, maybe an old, like, I don't know, maybe a flutter spoon or a little George or something like that. We're gonna try a bunch of different things and see if we can catch these fish. But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Again, huge shout out to Bridgeford for sponsoring this Fish Moment long form content. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think of the Eagle Eye 9 live sonar, and we'll see you guys in the next video.